A black woman fired for bringing her son to work? Wait until you hear what her new boss said, it'll blow your mind. This is Black Voices, bringing you stories that hit hard and inspire harder. What the hell is that kid doing here, Kesha? This is an office, not a daycare. Victoria Crawford's voice echoed through the conference room, causing all 20 employees to turn and look. Kesha hugged Jordan tighter against her chest. The 6-year-old boy was pale. His breathing labored from the asthma attack that had started in the early hours of the morning. "I'm so sorry, Miss Crawford. The babysitter canceled at the last minute, and I couldn't miss today. It's the Miller Project presentation I've been coordinating for 3 months." Kesha kept her voice steady, even though she could feel the weight of all those judgmental eyes on her. "But hold on, you won't believe what happens next on Black Voices." Victoria approached, her heels clicking loudly on the floor. At 42, the executive director of Morrison & Associates had built her career by stepping on those she considered inferior. Her privileged white skin had never faced a single barrier that Kesha knew intimately. Company policy is clear. No exceptions. You're fired. Effective immediately. She turned to Kesha's colleagues. Let this be an example to you all. Professionalism above all else. Kesha was only 29 when she discovered that 6 years of total dedication to Morrison & Associates could be destroyed in 30 seconds of public humiliation. She had worked weekends, holidays, missed Jordan's birthdays, all to prove she deserved to be there. Her black skin always made her work twice as hard to get half the recognition. Jordan started coughing, a dry sound that made Kesha quickly grab the inhaler from her bag. Her hands trembled, not from nervousness, but from contained anger. She had lost 3 hours of sleep the night before in the emergency room, while Jordan struggled to breathe. The only option was to bring him with her or lose her job for missing work again. "Breathe with me, sweetheart." Slowly, she whispered, ignoring the impatient glances around her. "See?" Victoria gestured dramatically. "This is exactly why single mothers don't work in high-powered corporate environments. They always have divided priorities." Robert, sitting in the third chair, looked away. Kesha had saved his career 3 months ago when he made a mistake that would have cost the company $200,000. She worked all night to fix it without asking for credit. Now when she needed a word in her defense, he was studying her shoes as if they were fascinating. "Security is coming to escort you out," Victoria smiled with cruel satisfaction. "And make sure you return your badge and company car keys." The silence in the room was deafening. Jennifer from accounting coughed nervously. Marcus from marketing fiddled with his cell phone. They all knew that Kesha was the most competent employee in the company. She had increased the department's efficiency by 40% in the last year. But standing up to Victoria meant risking their own jobs. As she gathered her personal belongings from her desk, Kesha noticed something no one else did. Victoria was recording everything on her cell phone, probably to post on her social media about effective leadership and maintaining professional standards. That small detail planted a seed in Kesha's mind. Jordan squeezed his mother's hand. "Mommy, why is that lady being mean to us?" His weak voice made some of his classmates lower their heads in shame. "Because some people confuse cruelty with power, sweetheart," Kesha replied loudly enough for everyone to hear. "But that doesn't mean they're always right. Come on, Jordan. Let's go home." She walked across the room with her head held high, little Jordan in her arms. But anyone watching closely would have noticed something in Kesha's eyes. It wasn't defeat. It was the calculating look of someone who had just received all the information she needed for an upcoming comeback. As she waited for the elevator, Kesha whispered to Jordan, "Mommy is going to show these people what happens when they underestimate an intelligent black woman." She smiled for the first time that day, not with joy, but with cold determination. There, in front of all the contemptuous stares, she stood firm like someone guarding a secret too powerful to be revealed before the right time. Victoria Crawford had no idea that she had just awakened something far more dangerous than a mother's anger, the calculated strategy of a woman who knew exactly how to use other people's arrogance against them. If you're wondering how a humiliating dismissal can turn into the greatest lesson in justice a company has ever witnessed, don't miss what comes next on Black Voices. Kesha's story is just beginning, and I guarantee you won't want to miss a second of what she was planning to do with that video. 2 hours after her dismissal, Kesha discovered that Victoria had posted the humiliating video on her personal LinkedIn page. The caption read, "Effective leadership means making tough decisions. We cannot allow emotions in personal situations to compromise professional excellence. #responsible leadership #professional standards." The post already had 423 likes and dozens of comments praising Victoria's courage in upholding company standards. Kesha read every comment, memorizing names, job titles, companies. Her mind worked like a computer filing information for future use. "Mommy, why are you crying?" Jordan asked from the couch where he was playing with his only toy, a wheelless car she had found in the trash and fixed. "I'm not crying, sweetheart. I'm planning." Kesha wiped her eyes and opened the laptop she had bought used 3 years ago. She began researching everything about Victoria Crawford. Social profiles, professional history, family connections, even public property records. What she found was revealing. Victoria had inherited her position at Morrison & Associates through family connections. Her father was a minority partner in the firm. She had never worked anywhere else, never faced a significant no in her life. More importantly, her Instagram account was full of photos of expensive parties, international trips, and snide comments about people who don't try hard enough. That same afternoon, Jordan's health insurance was retroactively cancelled. The company claimed that as a former employee who had been fired for cause, Kesha had lost all benefits immediately. The inhaler Jordan needed cost $230 without insurance. Kesha looked at her bank statement. She had $340 in her checking account. Her apartment was $800 a month due in a week. She did the math in her head. Even if she bought Jordan's medicine, she wouldn't have enough money for food for at least 5 days. But it was in that moment of apparent despair that something clicked in Kesha's mind. She remembered something she had learned at 16 when her mother lost her job and they were almost evicted. "Daughter," her mother had said as she sorted papers on the kitchen table, "rich people always leave clues, and clues can be followed." Her mother had discovered that the landlord who was trying to evict them was charging illegal rent to several tenants. An anonymous phone call to City Hall solved not only their problem but the entire building's. "Intelligence always beats brute force," she whispered to Kesha during the difficult nights. Now at 29, Kesha finally understood what her mother meant. She started by creating a folder on her computer called Project Victoria. Inside, she saved screenshots of all of Victoria's social media posts from the past 2 years. She discovered that the CEO had a habit of making questionable public comments about employees, minorities, and company policy. Always subtle enough to avoid legal trouble, but clear enough to reveal her true character. The phone rang. It was Jennifer from accounting at Morrison & Associates. "Kesha, I'm so sorry about what happened today. That was awful." Her voice trembled. "I wanted you to know, some of us are thinking about filing a formal complaint with HR. Thanks, Jen. But don't risk it for me." Kesha paused, calculating. "By the way, do you still have access to the company's shared file system?" "Yes." "Why?" "Just curious about some old company policies." "Nothing big." After hanging up, Kesha smiled for the first time since morning. Jennifer didn't know it, but she had just become an unwitting source of valuable information. While Jordan slept that night, Kesha worked until 3 o'clock in the morning. She discovered that Victoria had fired 17 employees in the last 2 years, 15 of them women, 12 of them minorities. All of the terminations followed the same pattern: personal emergencies used as a pretext for cultural incompatibility. Even more interesting, she found records of a labor lawsuit filed against Victoria 3 years ago. The employee had dropped the suit after the company offered a financial settlement with a confidentiality clause. Kesha picked up the phone and dialed a number she hadn't used in 2 years. "Hello." The sleepy voice on the other end was familiar. "Marcus, it's me, Kesha. I know it's late, but I need a favor." Marcus Williams had been her classmate in business school. Now he worked as a private investigator specializing in corporate cases. More importantly, he owed Kesha a significant favor from when she had saved his marriage by uncovering information that proved his wife's innocence in a delicate situation. "Kesha, girl, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Are you okay?" "Not exactly, but I will be." She told him the whole story, every detail, every humiliation. Marcus was silent until she finished. "This Victoria sounds like a lovely person," he said sarcastically. "Send me everything you've gathered so far. And Kesha, when I'm done investigating this woman, she'll wish she never heard your name." As she emailed the files, Kesha felt something she hadn't felt in a long time, hope mixed with cold determination. Victoria Crawford had made the classic mistake of the powerful. She had confused her privileged position with actual superiority. There, in the dimly lit kitchen of her modest apartment, surrounded by unpaid bills and worries about Jordan's future, Kesha was building something Victoria could never buy, a plan methodically crafted by someone who knew exactly what it was to fight, and more importantly, what it was to win against all odds. What Victoria didn't know was that every arrogant post, every cruel comment, every public display of her prejudice was being catalogued by someone who understood a fundamental truth: privileged people always feel untouchable until they discover they're not. A week after she was fired, Kesha discovered that Victoria had gotten her blacklisted among the city's consulting firms. 3 job interviews were cancelled at the last minute, always with vague excuses about budget changes or department restructuring. The 4th company was more direct. "Look, I'm going to be honest with you," said the HR manager, a middle-aged woman with a sympathetic look. "I got an informal call about your work history. I can't officially consider it, but I can't completely ignore it either." Kesha left that interview with crystal clear clarity. Victoria hadn't been content to just fire her. She was actively sabotaging her chances of rebuilding her life. That same afternoon, Marcus called with information that made Kesha's blood run cold. "You won't believe what I found." His voice was a mixture of anger and disbelief. "Victoria Crawford has a pattern of behavior that goes back 10 years. 15 employees fired, all minorities or single mothers. And here's the interesting part: she documents everything." Marcus had discovered that Victoria kept a digital personal file with photos, printouts of conversations, and even secret recordings of employees she considered problematic. It was as if she collected trophies of her victories over vulnerable people. "She has photos of you in the file, Kesha. Photos taken secretly during meetings, mean comments about your appearance, speculation about your personal life. It's sick." Kesha closed her eyes, feeling a mixture of disgust and cold determination. "How did you get access to this?" "Let's just say private investigators have their methods. And Victoria isn't as smart as she thinks she is about digital security." Marcus paused. "There's more. She has a private WhatsApp group with other female executives in the city. They share information about employees they want to neutralize." It was exactly what Kesha needed to hear. Victoria wasn't just a cruel boss. She was at the center of an organized network of corporate discrimination. Meanwhile, Jordan had to be taken to the emergency room twice that week. His asthma was getting worse with the stress of the change in routine and the lack of proper medication. Kesha spent her last $300 on nebulizers and doctor's appointments. It was during her second trip to the hospital that something unexpected happened. "Kesha." A familiar voice called her from the waiting room. It was Diana Santos, a former colleague at Morrison & Associates who had been fired 6 months earlier by Victoria under the pretext of cultural incompatibility after she asked for leave to care for her mother with cancer. "Diana, how are you?" Kesha stood up, hugging her friend whom she hadn't seen since she was fired. "Surviving. How about you?" "I heard that Victoria, well, that she did the same thing to you that she did to me." The two women talked for 2 hours in the hospital cafeteria. Diana told Kesha details she didn't know. Victoria had spread rumors about her emotional instability to other companies. She had deliberately created stressful situations to force mistakes. She had even sabotaged Diana's important presentations to justify her dismissal. You know what hurts me the most? Diana said, stirring her cold coffee. It's that she does this because she can. Because she knows that women like us don't have the resources to fight back. What if I told you that maybe we have more resources than she thinks? Kesha asked calmly. Diana looked at her curiously. What do you mean? Kesha told her about Marcus, about her discoveries, about Victoria's secret file. She saw Diana's eyes fill with tears, not sadness, but relief at finally having hope for justice. I want to help, Diana said firmly. I have printouts of conversations with her, emails with inappropriate comments. I saved everything because something told me I would need it one day. That night, Kesha created a WhatsApp group called Project Justice. In addition to Diana, she got in touch with 4 other former employees of Victoria. Each had her own story of humiliation. Each had kept evidence. What Victoria didn't know was that her obsession with documenting her victories over vulnerable employees had created a trail of evidence that was now being compiled by someone far more intelligent and determined than she could ever have imagined. Marcus sent a message that night. Kesha, I got access to the company's financial records. Victoria is embezzling money from the training fund to pay for her personal travel. We've got her. Kesha looked at Jordan sleeping on the couch, his inhaler beside him, and smiled for the first time in weeks. It wasn't a smile of joy. It was the smile of someone who had just put together all the pieces of a puzzle that would lead her enemy to total ruin. Victoria Crawford had spent years collecting trophies from people she destroyed. She had no idea she had just become the trophy of someone who understood that true intelligence isn't about oppressing the vulnerable, but about turning vulnerability into strategic strength. 3 weeks after the hospital meeting, Kesha received a call that would change everything. Kesha, it's Marcus. I've got something that will interest you. His voice was filled with barely contained excitement. Victoria just made the fatal mistake. She fired an employee yesterday, a white woman, the daughter of a member of the company's board. And why does that matter? Because this time she recorded it and posted it on LinkedIn like she always does. Only this time, the employee is Jennifer Walsh, Senator Walsh's daughter, who's running for governor. His campaign is all about family values and supporting working moms. Kesha felt a smile form. Victoria didn't do her homework this time. Exactly. And there's more. Jennifer has connections in the media. She's furious and wants revenge. When I told her about our evidence file against Victoria, she said she has the right contacts to make sure the story gets national exposure. That same afternoon, Kesha met Jennifer Walsh at a discreet cafe in the city center. Jennifer was a 35-year-old woman, blonde, well-dressed, exactly the type Victoria normally protected from her cruelty. Victoria made a mistake, Jennifer said, nervously stirring her coffee. She thought I was just another employee she could humiliate. She had no idea who my family is. And now I have a national TV show interested in the story. Patterns of discrimination in American companies is going to be the topic of the week, but I need more evidence to back up the story. Kesha smiled and opened her laptop. I have exactly what you need. Over the next 2 hours, she showed Jennifer everything: Victoria's secret file with photos and malicious comments about employees, screenshots of the WhatsApp group where the executives exchanged information to neutralize female employees, evidence of embezzlement, and 15 documented cases of discriminatory dismissals. My God, Jennifer whispered, staring at the screens. She's much worse than I thought. And there's one more thing, Kesha said, opening a specific file. Victoria has a habit of recording all the firings so she can brag about them later. I have 15 videos of women being humiliated by her, including mine. Jennifer was silent for a long moment. You know that when this comes out, it's going to destroy her completely, right? She destroyed 15 careers, Jennifer. She affected 15 families. She separated mothers from their children for pure sadistic pleasure. Kesha closed the laptop. Victoria always knew her actions had consequences. She just didn't expect them to come back to her. 5 days later, the bomb exploded. The program America Matters, on Black Voices, devoted 45 minutes to methodically dissecting the Victoria Crawford case. Jennifer Walsh had convinced her network of contacts to make the story go viral on all platforms simultaneously. The program began with a video of Kesha's dismissal, showing a black mother holding her sick child while being publicly humiliated. Then they revealed Victoria's secret file, unauthorized photos of female employees with cruel comments about their appearance, malicious speculation about their personal lives, even close-ups of body parts with derogatory jokes. "What you're seeing," said the presenter, "is how a senior executive at Morrison and Fellows systematically documented her victories over vulnerable employees." They then showed messages from the WhatsApp group where Victoria coordinated with other executives to create informal blacklists of employees they considered problematic. 5 companies in the city were involved in the scheme. The final blow came when they revealed that Victoria had embezzled $120,000 from the company's training fund to finance her personal travel, forging receipts, and creating fictitious training programs. Victoria was in a meeting with important clients when her assistant rushed in looking distraught. "Miss Crawford, you need to see this right now." She looked at her cell phone screen and saw her own face on national television. The audio from the program echoed through the office as her colleagues stopped to watch. 15 minutes later, when the program showed the unauthorized photos she had taken of female employees, Victoria felt her legs give way. Her phone began ringing incessantly. First, it was her father, the company's founder, yelling about the shame she had brought on the family. Then it was the legal department informing her that 15 employees had filed simultaneous lawsuits for harassment, discrimination, and invasion of privacy. Victoria Crawford, the host concluded, represents everything that is wrong with unchecked corporate power. Horror. Victims, brave women like Kesha, Diana, and Jennifer Walsh, have proven that no tyrant is invincible when victims unite for justice. 2 hours later, Victoria was escorted out of Morrison and Fellows by security guards. Her dismissal was live-streamed on the company's Instagram. Cruel irony. Considering how she had humiliated so many others in the same way. The next morning, Kesha woke up to a call from the new interim director of Morrison and Fellows. "Ms. Rodriguez, I would like to formally offer you your re-employment with the company with a promotion to senior manager and financial compensation for damages." It's a. Kesha glanced at Jordan, who was quietly drawing on the kitchen table with the colored pencils someone had mysteriously left for him weeks ago. "Thank you for the offer," she replied calmly. "But I'm considering other opportunities." The truth was that 3 competing companies had already offered her executive positions after seeing how she had methodically orchestrated Victoria's downfall. Strategic leadership, meticulous planning, flawless execution, exactly the qualities they were looking for. Victoria Crawford had spent years collecting trophies from people she had destroyed. She had no idea she was building the evidence file that would be used in her own destruction by someone far more intelligent than she would ever be. At that moment, watching the news about federal investigations being opened against Victoria and her accomplices, Kesha understood a fundamental truth. The best revenge is not to stoop to the level of those who hurt you. It's to use their arrogance to build the ladder that will lead to their downfall. 6 months later, Kesha was sitting at her new desk as CEO of Davies & Partners, the most respected consulting firm in town. From her window on the 23rd floor, she could see the Morrison and Fellows building, now with a space available for lease sign on the front. The company had gone bankrupt 3 months after the scandal broke. 15 simultaneous lawsuits, a federal investigation into systematic discrimination, the cancellation of million-dollar contracts, and the discovery that the blacklisting scheme involved 5 other companies in the city. The domino effect was devastating. Jordan, now with premium health insurance and specialized medical care, drew quietly in the corner of his mother's executive office. His drawings had changed. Now he drew black superheroes saving the world with brains instead of brawn. "Mom, are you just like that woman in the drawing?" he asked, showing her a figure of a woman wearing a suit and holding a briefcase like a shield. "No, sweetheart. I'm better." Kesha smiled, signing a contract she had just closed, ironically, with one of Morrison and Fellows' former clients. That afternoon, she received an unexpected visitor. Diana Santos, now working as a corporate diversity manager at a multinational company, brought news about Victoria. I ran into her yesterday at the supermarket, Diana said, sitting down in the armchair across from Kesha's desk. She was applying for an administrative assistant position. Minimum wage. Victoria had lost everything. Her family had disowned her after the scandal tarnished the Crawford name. No company would hire her because of her national reputation as a symbol of corporate discrimination. Her social media profiles, once full of arrogant poses and quotes about leadership, were now deactivated. She recognized me, Diana continued. She bowed her head and quickly left the line. I think she finally understood what it means to be invisible. Kesha's phone rang. It was Jennifer Walsh, who had become a national advocate for workers' rights after the Victoria case. Kesha, I just got out of a Senate meeting. They passed the Corporate Discrimination Protection Act. Officially, it will be called the Kesha Rodriguez Act. Kesha closed her eyes for a moment. Her mother always said that true victory wasn't defeating your enemy, but turning your pain into protection for others. That night, as she tucked Jordan into bed in his new room, complete with a real bed, no longer a couch, she reflected on the journey. Mommy, are you still mad at that mean lady? Jordan asked, hugging his new teddy bear. No, sweetheart. You can't be mad at someone who taught you such a valuable lesson. What lesson? That people like her always lose in the end because they build empires on other people's pain. And empires like that always come crashing down. Marcus called shortly after. Kesha, did you see the news? 3 of the executives from Victoria's WhatsApp group were fired today. The movement you started is changing the corporate culture of the entire city. It was true. Companies were rewriting diversity policies, creating anonymous reporting channels, and implementing mandatory discrimination training. The Victoria case had become a milestone that no company wanted to repeat. A year after her humiliating dismissal, Kesha was on stage at the country's largest women's leadership event, telling her story to 2,000 female executives. Victoria, who used to speak at these same events about professional excellence, now watched on television from her one-bedroom apartment, unemployed and forgotten. The best revenge, Kesha concluded her speech, is not to stoop to the level of those who hurt you. It's to use their cruelty as fuel to build something so great that they become irrelevant. The audience rose to a standing ovation. On social media, the video went viral with a hashtag #SmartJustice. Victoria Crawford had spent years collecting trophies from people she destroyed, documenting each humiliation with sick pride. She had no idea that she was building the evidence file that would be used in her own destruction by someone who understood a fundamental truth. The arrogance of the powerful always contains the seeds of their own downfall. Kesha learned that true strength does not come from stepping on others, but from rising so dignified that the whole world stops to applaud. And when you use intelligence instead of anger, you don't just win, you rewrite the rules of the game forever. If this story of justice and overcoming adversity touched your heart, subscribe to Black Voices for more stories that prove that the best revenge is success built with dignity. Because when you turn humiliation into motivation, you don't just change your life, you change the world around you.